We are here at the historic Cameo Art House Theater in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And joining me today is Chuck Tryon. He is the Assistant Professor for Film and Media Studies at Fayetteville State University, here to share more on his book, which is about to come out in July, Reinventing Cinema, Movies in the Age of Media Convergence. Thanks for joining us, Chuck.
Thanks for having me on the show.
So tell us, why did you go ahead and write this book?
Well, I wrote the book because I'm really interested in independent cinema and documentary, and I began observing as I was writing my own blog and reading other people writing about independent film that something significant was happening in terms of how digital technologies were altering the distribution, exhibition, and even the promotion and reception of films. So I really wanted to explore some of those issues and thought that a book would be a really good way of doing that.
You really hit on a lot of different topics in this book. I had a chance to read over a couple of your chapters,
Sure.
And they're available to read obviously on Amazon.com. Talking about the changes in the industry, there have been a lot of changes, and with independent filmmaking, even more so. So how does an independent filmmaker make it in this business?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think one of the things that's happening is, with more and more films being made, one example is the thousands of films, for example, that get submitted to the Sundance Film Festival, and only 150 of those get shown at the festival, and then even fewer of those get distribution. Huge theatrical bottlenecks. So I think what's happening is more and more filmmakers are turning to self-distribution, finding different ways of promoting their films online, whether it's through YouTube videos, through podcasts, and through other means of kind of garnering attention. And I think that's part of what's happening is filmmakers are just having to become much more inventive about how they promote themselves, and that's a really big challenge. I don't know that there's a really easy answer to that.
But on the other side of the coin, you have a lot of these mediums where artists just want to have their work seen, like second cinema, like the internet. But the other side of it is it watering everything down to where there's so many films out there, there's so many ways of having your work seen. What are we taking seriously as a medium to really have work seen and consider it good? Right.
I mean, I think that's, I guess, what I would call a filtering question. And what ultimately happens, I think, in the best cases, is a good movie will get good word of mouth. People will blog about it. They'll write reviews on movie websites. There are sites such as Spout.com where writers like Karina Longworth will champion independent films. So. What I think is happening right now is we're developing the filtering system where people can begin to find interesting films, and some of that will be word of mouth. I mean, I think one of the big changes is, certainly there's a shift in where people are reviewing films, and you get these great independent voices that talk about movies, and hopefully that will provide one way of making it work in terms of finding the best material out there.
One of your chapters about the digital distribution, you compare movies like The Blair Witch Project to The Last Broadcast,
right.
How the distribution of those two films were so different and how they made significantly different amounts of cash.
Sure.
But also one just became such a cult classic in a way,
right.
compared to the other one. Can you go into depth about that a little bit?
A little bit. I mean, I think Blair Witch Project was one of those things where lightning struck, and the filmmakers got incredibly lucky, tapped into something very effectively in terms of using these creative modes of promotion. I mean, Blair Witch, as you'll recall, came out in, I think, 97, 98, when people were really just starting to discover the web, and they used that kind of urban legend about the Blair Witch to promote the film. I do think The Last Broadcast, the Lance Weiler film, is actually kind of a success story in a lot of ways, because even though he didn't get traditional distribution, he was able to use the web's self-distribute and still made it, for an independent film, a significant amount of money, and was able to kind of sustain himself as an independent filmmaker. So I think we can look at someone like him as a positive model in a lot of ways. Even though he didn't get the backing of someone like Artisan, he still was, I think, a success in some ways.
Both films basically had their benefits depending on what they consider successful.
Right, absolutely.
You also mention a lot about financing your film. That seems to always be a big problem. You have a lot of these, especially with independent films, it is harder to get the financing. A lot of stuff is for food copying credit. You know, it's difficult out there, especially with the smaller independents. Can you talk a little bit with us about the financing aspect of things? What can help? You said you had
a little bit. I mean, I think
experience in that.
A little bit. I think that you know, there are always things like grants and things like that. I mean, I know you know, what's happening is a number of filmmakers are doing it basically on their own dime, you know, hoping to get support later down the road. What I found interesting are the different ways in which people have created models for selling their films online. And you know, one really interesting example to me is a model that a few filmmakers have used, adopting the model that Radiohead used to distribute their, I think it's In Rainbows album, where they made it available online and asked fans to donate whatever they saw fit. And one film in particular, 10 Miles Per Hour, by a guy named Josh Caldwell, or guys named Josh Caldwell and Hunter Weeks. They did that and were able to make several $1,000s. Some people would donate $1, some people would donate more depending on how valuable they found the film. And so, you know, I think filmmakers are just trying different experiments, trying to see what works. I don't think there will ever be like a single black box out there that will channel everything to one location. I mean, people will want it on their mobile devices. Some people will want it on their computers. Some people want it on their television set. So I think all these experiments are really interesting and rewarding. One
thing I noticed recently with a couple films that are out there, especially in the North Carolina market, are some of these independent film producers are asking for funds by giving people producer credits.
Right.
And you know, you see that, obviously that's the way it works. I mean, if you're a big producer, you back a film, but giving even, you know, $20 and suddenly you're a producer on the film.
Right, exactly.
You know, a silent partner in a way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there are long credit lists with people who've given $20 or whatever.
So getting the work seen is a big deal, especially when you're in the independent market, trying to get that work seen, having the availability of things like YouTube and what you call the Hollywood movie mashup. These can obviously be very beneficial to the filmmaker.
Sure.
But again, it's like, where do you divide the line on which film festivals are actually going to be good promotion for your film? Having the work seen is important, but where's the dividing line on, okay, mom and pop film festival, is that really beneficial just to win an award there, or is it better to go to a bigger film festival and hopefully walk away with something, or just have your work seen in front of more prominent people? Right.
Well, I think one of the things I would say about that is, you know, obviously the competition for some of the bigger festivals is so huge that it's partially a matter of fit. I mean, one of the things that I've seen, for example, is South by Southwest seems very friendly to the mumblecore movement, which is a number of independent, very talky films featuring 20-somethings. But it's also very friendly, I think, toward films that have connections to digital media. They're a very kind of web-friendly festival, and so if your film fits that niche, it's a good location. You know, there are a number of underground film festivals in major cities, and if your film's more experimental, I think, again, it's just a matter of fit and finding the audience that's appropriate to your movie, which is, again, a challenge in its research.
But it's what we love to do. Right?
Exactly.
So, Chuck, your book comes out, Reinventing Cinema, Movies in the Age of Media Convergence. Just want to remind people this book is going to be available in July, Amazon.com, most of BarnesandNoble.com.
Yeah, BarnesandNoble.com, Rutgers University Press website.
Great.
So, lots of places.
We look forward to seeing it, and much success to you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for interviewing me.
Thank you so much, and we will be back with more Second Cinema. Stay here. We have an exclusive interview with Hollywood actress Evan Rachel Wood, so keep it here.